Egypt. Why is Egypt so special? All over the world, many people come and visit this place. Is it something about its land or its people? Is it the past, the present, or may it be the future? Egypt is a land of adventure, not only for its past, but also for its present. When people visit Egypt, they might not only visit pharaonic Egypt, the pyramids, the temples, and tombs.
There is another part of Egypt which is hidden, and this is Christian Egypt. It is a land so blessed because of many of our great fathers have visited Egypt, like fathers Abraham, Jacob and Joseph. But more than this, Christ himself came here early in his childhood, with his mother the Virgin Saint Mary and Saint Joseph the carpenter, fleeing from Herod's killings. Today Egypt is alive and surviving due to the prayers and blessings of a group of special people. Although these people live far away from the towns and villages of Egypt, they make a major contribution to the life of the Church. We would like you to come with us now to the journey of the Desert Fathers.
Egypt has long been considered by the whole world the cradle of monasticism. Monasticism dates back to the 3rd century AD, at the time of the Roman Empire. The father of monasticism is Saint Anthony the Great. Saint Anthony was an Egyptian born in 251 AD, the son of pious, wealthy Christian parents. At the age of 18, he heard the gospel reading in church saying,
"One thing you lack. Go your way, sell whatever you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross, and follow me."
Immediately, Saint Anthony applied these words to himself, sold all his possessions, sent his younger sister to a house for virgins, and went to the inner wilderness, the wilderness of the Red Sea. He lived for 105 years.
There are 3 types of monastic orders. The first type is monachism, where monks live in complete solitude and are known as hermits or anchorites. The second type is the Cenobitic order adopted by St. Anthony in the 3rd century. His monasticism comprised both solitude and companionship, for each of his followers lived in a cell in utter loneliness throughout the week. They assembled around him on Saturday evening for prayer and remained together till Sunday noon, where they took together a meal called a rabbi, after participating in the Eucharist liturgy, celebrated by monk priests. After that, they would disperse to resume their solitude until the following Saturday. The life of monks in these deserts was not subject to any written rule. It was regulated above all by the traditions of the elders transmitted orally. The third type, which was founded by Saint Pachomius, the communal monastic life. He organized the life of the monks, submitting them to fixed rules and regulations by which they were to live together in one common life. The monks had everything in common: prayer, meals, and work. The teachings of the Upper Egyptian monk Pachomius was the spark that ignited the spirit of monasticism in the whole of Western countries. There were 9 monasteries that were under the direction of Saint Pachomius at the time when he passed away in the 4th century. At that time, there were 5,000 monks in the Canonia, the community. Saint Pachomius is entitled the father of Canonian monasticism. This type of monasticism prevails today.
It is said that in the 4th century there were thousands of monasteries starting from Alexandria in Lower Egypt to Aswan in Upper Egypt, and when the monastery bells rang for morning prayers, they could be heard from monastery to monastery in a line running from Lower to Upper Egypt. It is also said that at the time of the Arab conquest in 641 AD, there were 70,000 in Setis, Today, a total of about 1,000 monks inhabit the 15 monasteries of Egypt.
The most significant change to the monastic life was effected by the construction of desert roads leading to the monasteries, thus lifting the desert fathers out of their geographical isolation. World, protected by miles of impossible desert sand, have now become popular pilgrimage sites that can be reached in a few hours by car or bus. On certain seasons, literally hundreds of visitors descend upon the desert monasteries, and youth groups gather there for spiritual retreats and conferences.
Here in the desert, close to the Red Sea, a 4-hour drive from Cairo, there is the monastery founded by the most renowned of the anchorites, St. Anthony, the father of all monks. The monastery is like a small village in which 90 monks live. The magnificent landscaping of the monastery can be seen with both the 3rd century buildings surrounded by the 10th and 19th century new buildings. The monastery has 7 churches, old and new monk cells, guest houses both in and outside the wall, the keep, a garden, a cemetery, a bakery, a generator room, a library, a museum, a gift shop and a kiosk. 50 years ago, the main monastery gates were closed and the only way to enter the monastery was through a pulley. It functioned in 2 ways: to lift up the visitors, and through Christian love, fed the Bedouins in the surrounding desert. Today the gates are opened for all Christians.
Each of the monasteries that we are about to show you have a unique feature to them. St. Anthony's Monastery is the first monastery in the world. Upon entering the monastery, the visitor will be taken for a tour. If there is enough time and he can spare the 3 hours, the visitor will be taken 400 meters to the top of the mountain where the popular St. Anthony's Cave still exists. A magnificent view over the Wadi Arabia can be seen from this point. The agony of the hour's climb becomes a relief upon entering the cave. Here St. Anthony lived for 20 years. Once a year, on the 30th of January, a service is held in the cave to commemorate his departure. The cave has 4 parts. The cave, 4 meters by 2 meters in length. The tunnel, 98 centimeters wide and 5 meters in length. A terrace and balcony. It is here that the saint used to make his palm leaf baskets.
St. Anthony used to practice his prayers and spiritual meditation in this cave. An angel of God would appear to St. Anthony, showing him how to go about spending his time wisely. The angel showed St. Anthony how to make baskets and to plait ropes. He even told him how to wear a tunic and a kolonsoa, or hood, on his head. Most times were difficult, as the devil would appear to St. Anthony in many different forms, to tempt him so he could fall into his hand. Each time St. Anthony would call for God's help, and upon doing the sign of the cross, Satan would dissolve.
Father Daniel L. Anthony, originally from Sydney, is a monk priest from the Monastery of St. Anthony. Today, he has been successfully serving in Australia for over 12 years since his consecration as a monk.
We'll talk about monastic life and who is a monk and what is the life of a monk in a monastery and how they spend their day in the monastery.
Around an hour's drive from St. Anthony's Monastery is the Monastery of St. Paul, or Paul of the Hermit. Very similar in size and structure to St. Anthony's Monastery, although a smaller number of monks live here, 55 monks and 22 novices in total. Before St. Anthony, there were many hermits scattered in the desert that no one knew about until St. Paul was found by St. Anthony. At one stage, St. Anthony thought of himself as the only living anchorite in the wilderness. Only then did God reveal to St. Anthony of another, by the name of Abba Paula the Hermit, who had lived for 80 years in the desert without seeing anyone. As soon as these two fathers met together, a crow carrying a loaf of bread descended from the heavens and left it in front of them. Abba Paula said to St. Anthony,
"You are from God, my father. As the many years I have lived in the wilderness, I would receive only half a piece of bread. But today God has sent us one whole piece."
The monastery of St. Paul was built on the cave site of St. Paul before the year 400 AD. The monastery was attacked several times over its history by Bedouins of Upper Egypt. When the monastery was destroyed in 1484 AD, the Bedouins burnt St. Paul's church and the library and killed all the monks. The Bedouins occupied the monastery for about 80 years. The monastic buildings are concentrated around the cave where the hermit is believed to have lived in seclusion for 80 years. The Church of St. Paul was built over this cave where his remains are buried. The wall paintings are among the earliest in Egypt, believed to date to the 4th century. All the figures are frontal and the execution of the work is simple and typically Coptic in spirit.
This is the three young men, and you can read about them in Daniel. With the fourth one, he looks like the son of the God. And this is the three archangels. And here stands Mary carrying Jesus Christ between the seraphim and cherubim. This is Saint Moses, the black, here.
The other three churches in the monastery are dedicated to Saint Mercurius, the Holy Virgin, and Archangel Michael. The latter is the largest and dates to the 17th century. Both monasteries' water supplies comes miraculously deep from within the surrounding mountains. The bitter and salty water emerges from a crevice in the rock and flows into a cement basin. This in turn flows into another basin situated a few meters away. The first is used for drinking and cooking, the second for washing, and a third basin channels the water for irrigating the gardens. The flow of water varies miraculously, depending upon the number of monks inhabiting the monastery at that time and the number of visitors.
The monasteries today are not only for the monks, but also for the people who wish to visit or have a retreat. As Christ instructed his apostles in Matthew,
As you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely give.
so too the Holy Fathers pray for the many people who come to the monasteries. Father Fanus in Mbabola is one of the holy and simple monks in the monastery.
Just northwest of Cairo is situated the four monasteries of Wadi Nutrun. As St. Anthony founded the monastery of the Red Sea, so too St. Macarius the Great ventured here and discovered the quietness that he had failed to find elsewhere. This was the area that eventually became the centre of Coptic monasticism, the region into which the great saints of the Egyptian Church lived: St. Macarius the Great, St. Bishoy, St. John the Dwarf, St. John Cami, and above all this, the Holy Family blessed this area during their flight from King Herod. The 8 salty lakes lie in a 35-kilometre line from one end of the wadi to the other. It has been known by a number of other names also: Setis, Shahid, and Wadi el-Natrun.
A 90-minute drive from Cairo on the desert road will bring you to the monastery of St. Macarius. Some of the buildings in this monastery were built by St. Macarius in 360 AD at the age of 60. He dearly loved solitude and quietness. Nevertheless, his followers increased and formed surrounding communities by building dwelling houses, manchapis, of mud bricks, roofed with reed, designed to meet the dual objective of voluntary poverty and absolute tranquility. They began as individuals, but soon their number ran into thousands. Just 20 years ago, the monastery was desolate, very small, and inhabited by 5 old monks. Today, just over 100 monks reside in this monastery. This is a Bohemian monasticism at its finest. Pious men with vision and education combine the life of contemplation with prayer and discipline. The 20th century buildings surrounding the old monuments have been constructed under the guidance of the abbot of the monastery. There are 3 churches, of which one of them, the church on its founder's name, St. Macarius, has 3 altars. Here the altar of St. John the Baptist, dedicated to him, as his bones are buried under this church with that of Elisha the prophet and 12 other skeletons.
The Egyptian monasteries have been inhabited by all kinds of people, from the very poor to the very rich. A 20-minute drive from the rest house on the desert road and passing the small village of El Wadi, we come to the second and most northern of the 4 monasteries in Wadi Nutrun. Here lived little strangers, Maximus and Domitius of the monastery of the Romans, Deir el-Baramus, originally named after the Virgin Mary. Established in 340 AD by these 2 young Roman princes, sons of the Roman Emperor Valentinian. They arrived in Setis after visiting the Christian shrines in Palestine. In Egypt they met St. Macarius, who served as the priest of the desert. St. Macarius established for them their cells and taught them the way of salvation. The monastery has 4 churches. One church, the Holy Virgin, El Adra, has at the north wall of the church new ivory inlaid feretory, relics holder, with glass windows containing the bodies of Saint Moses the Black and Saint Isidore.
We must also mention Saint Arsenius, who was a tutor to the emperor's children. Saint Arsenius prayed, saying, "Lord, lead me in the way whereby I may be saved." He had the reply,
Arsenius, flee from men, and you will be saved.
After being a monk, he received another call.
Arsenius, flee, keep silent, and live in solitude, for these are the roots of purity.
He used to say, "Many times I talked and was sorry, but never was I sorry for silence." Coming to the monastery, he stood behind a column at the end of the church, weeping for his sins. The limestone cave, which was inhabited by the late Pope Carolus VI during his early monastic life, lies about 2.5 kilometres away. This place became a popular place for pilgrimage. The site is marked by 12 elevated wooden crosses. The interior of the spacious cave is adorned with numerous icons and pictures of the wonder-making Pope and his patron, Saint Minas of Mauritius.
Standing side by side are the two other monasteries at Wadi El Latroun. These are the monasteries of Saint Bishoy and the monastery of El Surian, or the Syrians. Today they make up the largest monastic community in the world. Saint Bishoy Monastery is the largest monastery both in the number of monks, over 130, and the amount of buildings. Like the majority of Coptic monasteries, the foundation of the monastery of Saint Bishoy is closely associated with the life of its patron saint. Saint Bishoy was one of a family of many children. When he was still young, an angel of the Lord appeared to his mother and selected Bishoy to be a monk. When he grew up, he responded willingly and went to setters. While observing solitary life, Saint Bishoy experienced several visions of Christ. On one occasion, Christ passed by his cell, and Saint Bishoy stooped down to wash his master's feet, after which he drank the water as a blessing. Hundreds of visitors who visit this monastery will find 7 churches or chapels, the main and largest church being that of Saint Bishoy, having 3 altars. Saint Bishoy Monastery was the smallest of the 3 other monasteries in Wadi Latroun, until renovations began 20 years ago by His Holiness Pope Shenouda III, who was papal residency. In this monastery also, the help of His Grace Bishop Sarapamun, the Bishop of Saint Bishoy Monastery.
Pope Shenouda was originally consecrated in the monastery of El Surian. Due to this monastery's small size and unique features, we will look at it more closely. El Surian Monastery was founded in the 6th century. From its early monastic history, the Latroun Valley attracted Christian devotees from different lands. Here, Syrian monks lived with the Copts from about the 8th to the 16th century. Also, after the destruction of the nearby monastery of St. John Cami in the 4th century, the monks of the monastery migrated to El Surian Monastery. Thus, the monastery's name has been the Monastery of the Holy Virgin and St. John Cami, called Der El Surian. Like many old Coptic churches, the church is similar to an ark in shape, representing Noah's Ark, which saved believers from the flooded world. The monastery's main gate stands at the western part of the northern wall. These walls are considered the highest walls of all the monasteries. They are from the 9th century and their width is between 2 and 3 meters. These high walls were built around the cells, churches and the keep after many savage attacks by the barbarians.
principal church of the monastery is that of the Holy Virgin. Because of its artistic treasures, this church has repeatedly attracted the attention of archaeologists and architects. At the southeast corner of the keep is situated this beautiful church with its basilic roof and with the 4 rings of the cross ending in semi-domes. The church was built in 980 AD. The eastern part of the church has 3 altars, of which the middle sanctuary is dedicated to Saint Mary. The church's most outstanding attractions are the choir and the sanctuary doors of the church, with their magnificent ivory inlaid ornaments. The door of symbols, or the door of prophecies of the middle sanctuary, consists of 6 leaves, 3 forming a valve on each side. It dates back to 913 AD. Here Father Ioannis El Suriani explained each row.
It was built here in 914. The door of symbols is divided to many levels or many routes, from up to down, cover all the Christian here. Each one speaks about an epoch, except the first level is icons. In the middle, our Lord Jesus Christ and Saint Mary. At right side, Coptic Patriarchs, Saint Mark and Saint Discord. At left, Syrian, Saint Ignat, Saint Severe. These icons show the relation between the Coptic and Syrian churches. Beginning the second level, the symbols are big crosses, all of them the same shape, and they are interference crosses and are surrounded by interference circles. Speak about the Apostles' era, the beginning of the church, when the faith was strong. There was one doctrine, the church was united and strong, although it was persecuted. The third one, many circles, the same shape of cross of each one. Speak about the Roman era. After the Romans had believed by Christianity, there were many great centers of the church in the world, like Alexandria, Antioch, Rome. The first crescent is the middle, and similar to cross in the middle, and similar to crescent. Let's speak about the appearance of Islam. The first one, the sign of the swastika, is used here as a symbol of the heretics and the heretics. Then the present era, which we live now, many shapes of crosses are small and divided. Many shapes of crosses because the Christians today are many sects. The crosses are small and divided, speak about the weakness of faith and love. The last one big cross is shining everywhere, refers to the second coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. When he will come, the sign of the cross will appear in heaven. This door was made by information from the history before it was made, and the prophecies of the Bible.
This church represents a typical early Christian church, having 3 sections. The first section is reserved for the believers, the second for the catechumens, and the third for the mourners. During the service of liturgy, after the reciting of the creed, the doors of the first section are closed, allowing only the believers to attend the Eucharistic offering. Today the church is open for all to attend. The first section of this church, in its northeastern corner, has the relics holder of the saints. These relics are shifted from the winter church during summer. This church is used during summer because it is more spacious. The feretory contains the relics of Saint Kyriakos and his mother Julieta, Saint Moses the Black, Saint Severus, Saint Dioscorus, Saint John the Dwarf, the 40 martyrs of Sebastian, Saint Theodore, and some hair of Mary Magdalene. They are kept together with those relics of Saint John Cami and Saint Ephraim the Syrian. There are other saints whose bodies have not decayed, like Saint Bishoy. The niche of the Believers section have two frescoes dating to the 12th century. The southern niche depicts the Annunciation and the Nativity of our Lord. The northern niche depicts the Dormant of the Holy Virgin. Just recently, while renovation, this fresco dating to the 7th century was founded under another in the south end of the church.
Hanging from the ceiling in front of the main sanctuary are several ostrich eggs. Upon looking at the egg, the believer remembers the resurrection and new life. Also, as the ostrich keeps her eyes on the egg until it hatches, so too God never keeps his eyes off us. There is also the third section and the nave. Here, in the middle of the church, is the Epiphany basin fixed in the floor. It is used for the washing of feet ritual service on Covenant Thursday, the Feast of Epiphany, and the Apostles' Feast. The western aisle of the nave leads to one of the most interesting monuments in the monastery.
Now we enter the cave of Saint Bishoy. It is the oldest place in our monastery from the 4th century. In this cave, Saint Bishoy lived as a hermit, and our Lord Jesus Christ appeared to him many times. You can enter and see.
This narrow and low passage leads to the cell of Saint Bishoy. It was joined to Saint Bishoy's monastery by an underground tunnel. Saint Bishoy withdrew to this place to enjoy quiet prayer far from visitors. Saint Bishoy used to pray in this cell day and night, his hair being tied to the hook to prevent him from falling asleep and sinking down. There is a small square structure with an altar built against the east wall.
During the winter months, services are held in the cave church, which is also dedicated to the Holy Virgin. The third church, that of Archangel Michael, is situated, as in all monasteries, on the third floor of the keep, the guardian of the place. El Qasr, or the keep tower of the monastery, stands to the west of the northern gate. The keep was constructed early in the 5th century as a tower of refuge to all monks living in the area from the attacks by the desert Bedouins. It was the idea of Emperor Zeno who ordered its construction in 482 AD. The emperor, on learning that his daughter Hilary, who had disappeared from the palace, was living in the monastery of St. Macarius, disguised as a monk, Hilary, who was regarded as a eunuch, having been made a nun by St. Beeman, sent architects to the Coptic monasteries in honor of his daughter, who preferred to live and die with the monks of Egypt rather than enjoy the luxurious life in her father's palace.
The keep is reached by a wooden drawbridge, with one of its ends fixed to its doorstep and the other resting loose on the stairs. This end was attached to the keep with a chain. When it was pulled from within the building, the bridge rose and stood flat upon the wall. Thus it hid the door and separated the building from the outer world. It consists of 3 floors, the third floor being the chapel dedicated to Archangel Michael. Monks' cells were located on the 1st and 2nd floors. Here behind this door is one of the cells of His Holiness Pope Shenouda III, where he used to live during early monastery life. There were secret passages leading to the outside of the monastery. The monks could survive within the keep for many months until it was safe enough for them to go to their own cells. There is also the basement for storage of the food, which was mainly dry figs, beans and lentils. Here still exists after 200 years dry termus.
To the east of the Church of the Cave stands St. Ephraim's tree. When St. Ephraim visited St. Bishoy's cell, he left his stick outside. When he came out, he found that it budded. It is known as St. Ephraim's tree, and it is a tamarind tree. The monastery also has a museum with many of the old artifacts which have survived until today. Old jars and stone mortars, icons made of pebbles, oil lanterns, vestments and tunics, some symbols and ancient wood stamps, 12th century marble tray from Nubia, crosses, altar vessels, and icons dating to the 16th and 17th century.
The body of Saint Samuel the Confessor. The body of Saint Besada like that of Saint Bishoy and many others, have not decayed. So too the body of Saint Demadios. As all Coptic churches, there are hand-painted Coptic icons, blessed with the holy maroon oil. Here are some examples. The late Father Andraus El Samueli. He is also recognized as a 20th century holy and simple monk.
And that day there will be an altar for the Lord in the midst of Egypt.
The Holy Family visited 16 areas in Egypt and ended their journey here in the monastery of El Muharraq. The monastery starts at the foot of the western mountain of Koskan, 12 kilometers to the west of Asyut. To the west of the monastery is a church dedicated to the Holy Virgin. This church stands in the same cave where the Holy Family lived for 6 months and 10 days. As Isaiah prophesied, here stands in the middle of Egypt the first Christian altar in the whole world. On this altar Jesus the infant slept and thus consecrated the church for the monastery. Although this church is dated early in the 1st century, the monastery of El Muharraq was built later in the 4th century. This place is considered today by all the people the Jerusalem of Egypt, in which thousands of pilgrims come and take its blessings.
Until the middle of the 20th century, 2 active monasteries existed in Upper Egypt. The Monastery of the Holy Virgin, Deir el-Maharra, and the Monastery of Saint Samuel at Al-Kalamoun. Due to the vigorous leadership of Pope Shenouda III, the Upper Egyptian monasteries are now experiencing a revival. The following are inhabited by a few monks: the Monastery of Dronka, Asyut, Saint Shenouda, Suhag, the Virgin Mary, Archangel Michael, Saint George, and the Martyrs of Akhmim, Saint Pachomius, and Saint Hedra in Aswan.
One of the most modern monasteries in Egypt is that of St. Minas of Mariot in Alexandria. This monastery was rebuilt in 1960 on the site of the ruins of the old monastery by the late Pope Carolus VI, the 116th Pope. Today, many visitors come and take his blessings, as St. Minas was and still is renowned for the many miracles that are being performed. Also buried at the eastern end of the cathedral is the body of the late Pope Carolus VI, who is acknowledged by many as a 20th century saint. For his love to St. Minas, his patron saint, Pope Carolus wanted very much to be buried in this monastery.
All the monasteries we see alive today in Egypt has been due to the blessings and prayers of His Holiness Pope Shenouda III, the 117th Patriarch of the See of St. Mark. Chosen by God in 1971 as the Coptic Patriarch, Pope Shenouda put in his heart the care of repopulating and renovating the monasteries, both spiritually and architecturally, and also reopening many of the old monasteries. Today there exists a papal residency in St. Bishoy's monastery. Here residing also are two monks who administer the papal residency, Father Angelus Anba Bishoy and Father Suriel Anba Bishoy, originally youth from Australia.
The papal residency can accommodate over 100 visitors. Here are some of the guest houses. Here on the first level of this building is a church. On the ground level is a lecture room where His Holiness lectures to the theological students. The conference building and computer rooms. Here many religious conferences are held, like this conference of St. Dismos, a worldwide Orthodox youth organization. There is also the U-shaped building. This has a large kitchen and dining room on the first floor. On the second floor, there is a church. Here is a fully equipped church for non-Orthodox Christians to pray their own Mass or any other form of worship. Also, behind this gate is the Patriarchate building. accommodate other religious leaders and their entourage. Mango trees are planted here. The beautiful carved door on the Patriarchate building. How beautiful are the works of God.
People often ask why some men join the community of a desert monastery, or even retire into a cave to live. There are two main reasons. One, purely for the love of God and the desire to devote more hours in prayer and meditation in seclusion. And two, through a special calling in the form of a vision, a dream, or inspiration.
Then who is a monk? Someone who lives apart from the world in a spiritual community devoting himself to prayer, contemplation, and the performance of religious duties. He may prefer to live as a hermit, dwelling alone and meeting other members of the community only occasionally, as in church and at mealtime in the monastery refectory. A Cenobitic monk, on the other hand, lives in a clustered community and follows a strictly organized pattern of daily life. The monks who now take their vows are young people who are mostly university graduates. Their skills or professions, that of engineers, pharmacists, physicians, architects, agricultural engineers and accountants, have benefited their monasteries and the communities around them. On entering the monastery he chooses, the young man wears a light blue garment and stays in the retreat house. He actually participates in all of the monastic chores. After many months in the monastery and through the guidance and acceptance of the abbot or bishop, he is accepted as a novice. To be accepted as a novice, a candidate must be over 17 years of age and supply a recommendation from a priest, who is usually his confession father. He has to undergo a period of probation extending from 1 to 3 years.
All monasteries have retreat houses for young men who wish to leave the pressure of the outside world and come to a calm and holy atmosphere. He can come on his own or with a group from his parish, with a written letter accompanying him from his confession father. He can be accommodated for a day or several weeks. The set rules or regulations of the retreat house enables him to engage in the monastery's praises or tasbeha and the holy liturgy. In every retreat house there is a monk from the monastery who takes care of its administrating. This monk becomes the spiritual father for all who lodge in the house. Apart from their personal prayers, the youth attend nightly spiritual meetings with the Holy Father.
The consecration of a monk is like a joyous day in heaven. The novice chosen to be consecrated will either be told beforehand a day or two, or even the night before, unexpectedly. The celebration begins early in the morning at 6 a.m. after the Tesbaha, with all the monks, novices and visitors attending this joyous occasion.